Perry, let's get into the last two articles, which is going to be part 3 here of our real estate news. First one, and this caused a huge controversy in the neighborhood of our peers, real estate agents. People went bananas when this came out. And Zillow announced that they're offering, in almost every major market, I don't know of any that they don't offer it, the ability to search for, as a consumer or home buyer, homes that are in the distressed categories of short sales or behind on the mortgages. They may not even be listed as a short sale for sale, but you can identify properties that are in distress. In other words, go search in your area, and they have a list that they've acquired, that they have on their website now, of everybody in the market that's behind. And this is available for free, whereas previously you either had to go to the courthouse or buy a service, didn't you?
That was the biggest thing. And there's still a lot of challenges to buying foreclosures, if we want to talk about those. But, wow, I'm sitting here on the Austin one right now, and there's all sorts of little foreclosures on there.
Well, there are a lot of foreclosures, and what you would do, and we'll have, I would expect in the next couple of weeks, one of the foreclosure agents on, because I want to talk with them, and I've got one that is part of the ownership group for our Remax franchise, and their comment will be, and I expect this is what he'll talk about, is the number of foreclosures is way down. We've certainly talked about that in the news. But what you find interesting, and it's sort of a check and balance, is when you go look at the information that is available on the Zillow site, there are lots of properties that are behind. There are properties that banks have taken back, but they're not being put back on the market for sale, are they?
No, they're not. And I know personally that Prudential Texas Realty has a huge inventory of properties that they are using or managing because they have tenants in them. You can't get evicted if your house gets foreclosed on. That's probably the largest bunch of shadow inventory that's out there.
Right. You have properties that go into, just to clarify that for people, if you have properties that go into foreclosure and there is a tenant in a lease that's a signed written lease in Texas, like most markets, you see that, in fact, the process is that tenant, as long as they keep paying their payment, stays for the term of the lease. They don't get it.
That's correct.
So and that is part of it. What's interesting is a lot of the argument against this is it's an invasion of privacy. And the fact that it's available for free, it's easy to search, and they put it out there for anybody and everyone to see. The privacy advocates don't like this. And Zillow's counter-argument is that it offers greater transparency in real estate. I mean, if you want to buy in an area and you're concerned there might be a lot of foreclosures looming and or owned by the bank, then you now have the ability to go look at a block or a neighborhood or a street, and you can look at an overall marketplace and see what's going on from the standpoint of distressed properties today. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's controversial. I think that a lot of agents are up in arms about Trulia and Zillow that aren't realistic. I don't see them going away anytime soon. And so it's just another way that they are providing value for consumers and ensuring that they aren't going away anytime soon.
So I'm actually on the Zillow site looking over this stuff, and I'm looking at a particular property, and I've seen the same thing. The dates on the foreclosure information don't feel like they're current. I'm looking at one now. It's being labeled as a pre-foreclosure. This is dated March of 2011. It says the owner has been listed as and served a trustee notice of sale. Please confirm with the foreclosure specialist. 2011.
And also, let's look at the reality. The reality is sometimes people are served with multiple foreclosure notices and notices.
Gotcha.
And they don't ever get foreclosed on. So it enters the database, it goes on a list, and then they are able to do a loan modification or some other mechanism to straighten out their financial distress. But it is interesting because their list is pretty lengthy, and so some of those you're going to see are, in fact, not foreclosed on.
Yeah, I'm looking at another one, November 15th, 2011. Please verify with the foreclosure specialist.
Right. Well, it is interesting because I think the lenders are incented to not foreclose on as many properties as they can. It used to be in the past that there was a higher percentage of properties that went into distress that would actually get foreclosed on, and that number has continued to drop as more and more programs are rolled out to do things like loan modifications and other forms of workouts with borrowers. So I'm going to transition here and just tie down our last article today. Perry, CNBC had an article that came out about Friday's job report and talk about what it says about the housing market and implications. What's interesting is this is probably the biggest underlying trend, and whether you like one party or the other, until we get job growth, and there really isn't true job growth. I mean, there's all the positioning and all the twists and turns about job growth, other than places in Texas, and this is not an Austin versus the nation thing. This is just Texas is an example. It's probably the best example of a pro-growth, private enterprise-focused economic test mark. It's like a test bubble. And what you see is significantly lower unemployment and higher job growth. So nationally, for the jobs report, Texas is sort of an outlier. When we have all these markets that are running strong because of job growth. And I think this validates what CNBC is saying here, is that employment is a key driver of the real estate market. You look at how strong the relative real estate markets are in Texas, they're doing much better with the exception of a few other areas in the country because of this job growth. We have all these people moving into this market, not only because of our lifestyle in Austin, but because we do have jobs here. They can get work. And I know that the press, that what CNBC talks about is that the political spin and a lot of the review, and this is sort of in a bubble too, there was a propensity to put a positive spin on the job report that came out on Friday, but once they dug into it, the data still shows that things are overall in the country very, very weak. And it is interesting when she talks about the fact that, and this kind of is a thread between all three parts of this news today, that all cash buyers are purchasing real estate and turning it into rental housing. So when you look at the overall market, there are a lot more proportionately renters than there were previously. And in a market like Austin, let's tie this down to Austin, it is difficult to rent an executive home in Austin. You're competing with even more multiple offerers, if you will, as potential tenants than you would be for purchasing in a lot of cases, aren't you?
Absolutely.
So this is something we're going to watch here. I mean, I don't think this is going to remedy itself until the real estate market gets better across the country. And what I mean by that is we have so many of these people renting that would rather purchase. They can because they've got a job here, but they can't sell their house at home. And I think we're going to see this imbalance between people having to rent because they couldn't sell their home when they're moving into the market. And that's not going to get to the point where we have a more balanced rental market until we're able to solve a lot of the other components to it, which has to do with people being able to purchase.